Picture this, a time when the British flag was flying over almost a quarter of the entire world. That was the British Empire, a huge and strong force that ruled the world for ages. At its biggest, the British Empire had pieces of land everywhere, from America to Asia, Africa, and even Oceania. People used to say the sun never sets on the British Empire because it was so big and powerful. But the British Empire wasn't just about land, it was like a giant system of buying and selling, making rules and sharing cultures. It changed the world forever, influencing how countries are run, what languages people speak, and even how societies work. To understand our world today, we have to understand the British Empire. Its impact is still felt in how countries talk to each other, how money works, and even in people's identities. In this video, we're going to explore the rise and fall of the British Empire, from its beginnings to its spread and its effect on the world. We'll look at the big events and important people who shaped the empire, talking about both the good and the bad things it did. Our goal is to give you a balanced view of the British Empire's complicated and sometimes controversial story. The story of the British Empire begins way back in the 1500s. England wanted to be rich and powerful like other European countries, so they started setting up trading posts in far-off lands. These early trips, often run by private companies like the East India Company, were all about bringing back valuable stuff like spices, fabrics, and later tea. The East India Company, which started in 1600, became super important in making Britain the boss in India. At first they were just there to trade, but slowly they gained more and more power until they were basically ruling over huge parts of India. This change from simple trading posts to actually controlling land was a big deal. It set the stage for the official British rule in India, known as the British Raj, in the 1700s. A few things helped the British Empire grow in those early days. Making money was a big reason. They wanted resources and new places to sell their goods. Religion also played a part, as Protestant England wanted to spread their beliefs and challenge Catholic countries like Spain and Portugal. And let's not forget the Royal Navy. They were like the muscle protecting those overseas territories and making the British Empire even bigger. India was like a prize for the British Empire. It had a huge population, tons of valuable resources, and it was in a super important location. When the Mughal Empire, which had ruled India for a long time, started to weaken in the 1700s, the British and their East India companies saw their chance. They used a mix of fighting wars and making clever deals with local rulers to gain more and more control. The Battle of Plassey in 1757 was a major turning point. The East India Company, led by Robert Clive, won a big victory that gave them control of Bengal, a rich region that made them a lot of money. The East India Company's rule in India was a mixed bag. On one hand, they took a lot of India's wealth, making huge profits for themselves and helping to kickstart Britain's Industrial Revolution. But they also made some changes for the better, like introducing English education and setting up a modern legal system, even though it mostly benefited the British. Not everyone was happy with the East India Company, though. People started complaining about corruption and how much power the company had. This led to the British government taking direct control of India in 1858. India might have been the crown jewel, but the British Empire didn't stop there. During the 1700s and 1800s, they kept expanding, establishing colonies and taking control in Africa, Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Their reasons stayed pretty much the same: make money, gain an advantage over others, and because they believed they were better than everyone else. In Africa, Britain battled other European countries for land, resources, and control of important trade routes. The discovery of gold and diamonds in South Africa made things even more competitive, leading to brutal conflicts like the Boer Wars. The British also wanted to control key waterways like the Suez Canal, which was a shortcut to India and the East. The Royal Navy, the strongest navy in the world back then, was key to protecting these routes and showing off British power everywhere. The empire reached its peak in the late 1800s. Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1897 was a huge celebration of how powerful and important Britain had become.